We are sick of you, all of you, highly educated idiots with endless credentials but no common sense. This pandemic, created and then mismanaged by the very scientists that were put on a pedestal.
G'day and welcome to episode 45 of The Other Side. This is the show that amplifies the voices of the smartest liberal, free market, freedom-focused thinkers on the planet. We come to you a couple of times a week from our studios in Brisbane and Melbourne, Australia, to help fight the culture wars against big government and big corporate elites. You can catch us on Facebook and YouTube at Discernible, along with lots of other great shows like The People's Project with Matthew Wong and The Looking Glass with Josh. On the other side, we sometimes do interviews, we cover the news, we look at clips from lots of smart thinkers. We're also in audio on all your favourite podcast apps, Spotify and Apple and iHeartRadio and all those. So do sign up, subscribe, click all the bells, and most importantly, please share. Steve Hilton is a former Director of Strategy for the former British Prime Minister, David Cameron. Since 2017, he's been hosting a weekly show on America's Fox News channel called The Next Revolution. Steve is a proponent of what he calls positive populism. He grew up quite poor in the UK, the son of Hungarian immigrants, but through grit and determination, he ended up studying philosophy, politics and economics at New College in Oxford. Now, I've been a fan of Hilton's show for a while, but earlier this month, he summed up in a short editorial very succinctly what it means to be a populist liberal standing up to the bureaucrats and technocrats that inhabit not just our government hallways these days, but our biggest corporate hallways too. Big corporations are just like big government, and they're just as bad for healthy capitalism and true free market liberalism. And now we live in a world where the big corporations and big governments work together to tell us how we should behave and what we should think. Or at least they try to. I'm an optimist. I believe in the human spirit, that the individualism and drive that makes all of us rightly suspicious of those who think they know what's best for us will prevail in the end. This was, I think, Hilton's best editorial ever. It was sparked by the fiasco over Fauci, America's equivalent of our arrogant bureaucratic chief health officers here in Australia, who it turns out may have been way too cozy with change-of-function viral research both at home in the US and in China.
The technocrats, the bureaucrats, the pathetic politicians who indulge them, the fawning establishment media who elevate them, for years, for decades, they have been wrong, and disastrously so. Wrong on China, wrong on the economy, wrong on trade, wrong on immigration, wrong on endless war. Their globalist ideology brought the collapse of manufacturing, of decent jobs for young men. What is this new world they've built? These elites who cruise from each crisis they create to the next and the next and the next, without a shred of remorse or accountability. They engineered a big government takeover, power centralized, federalized, bureaucratized, in the out-of-control administrative state. On and on it goes, elitist madness that no normal person ever asked for, let alone voted for, shoved down our throats. Critical race theory in our kids' schools, wokeism in corporate America, micromanaging our lives to match their obsessions. We are sick of you, all of you, highly educated idiots with endless credentials but no common sense. This pandemic, created and then mismanaged by the very scientists that were put on a pedestal, must surely destroy any faith, any trust in the experts, the bureaucrats, the technocrats, the politicians and the media who blindly empowered them. This is surely the death of elitism, the downfall of our corrupt, clueless establishment, and the ultimate vindication of populism. It is time for the people to take back power, time to make the world more human. That is the next revolution we need.
Really powerful stuff there from Fox News' Steve Hilton. It certainly is time to push back on government and big government-like corporations. No doubt by now you've heard of the Great Reset. I have to admit that when I first heard about it, I thought it was some kind of kooky conspiracy theory. But no, it's a real thing. It has a website. and it's a real initiative of the World Economic Forum, a quite respected globalist organisation that has that meeting of the global elites in Davos, Switzerland every year. So let's recap on what the WEF is. The World Economic Forum is based in Switzerland. It was founded in 1971 by a man called Klaus Schwab. Its stated mission says it's committed to improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic and other leaders of society to shape global, regional and industry agendas. At the end of every January in Davos in the Swiss Alps, you'll find Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, Mark Zuckerberg and all the big guns, usually about 3,000 business leaders, international political leaders, economists, celebrities of course, and journalists. The elite, meeting up for up to 5 days for a big conference with about 500 different sessions on global issues. Now look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a big conference. And it's probably good that the power people get together every year and have a chat. It gets them collaborating on important stuff, and I think we all benefit. It's better than having them all fighting and using the rest of us as cannon fodder. But the WEF also runs a half a dozen or so regional meetings around the world each year too, and that's all well and good. But in May last year, in the middle of the COVID crisis, the WEF and one of the Prince of Wales charities, yes, he who shall soon be our King Charles, launched what must be the most insensitively, badly branded initiatives by a big globalist organisation in the history of big globalist organisations naming big initiatives. They launched what they call the Great Reset. And here's some of the WEF's video explaining it all.
The pandemic has radically changed the world as we know it. And the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis.
2020 has been challenging on a lot of levels, as economic, environmental and societal frailties have been laid bare. But it's also proved that when we need to, we can act rapidly and restructure our lives.
The recovery from the pandemic is an opportunity. We can see rays of hope in the form of a vaccine, but there is no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
You don't want to go back to the status quo that you had before simply because it was the status quo that got us here.
With everything falling apart, we can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before.
Whoa there, Ms. Global Elitist voiceover lady. The world is falling apart? Well, no, actually. The world has, objectively, never been in better shape. Human lifespans have never been longer, we've never been healthier, and we've never had so much wealth. And it's working best in places where government is small, not large, where people are left alone, where business is free to make its own decisions to meet the needs of the market, and the market is all of us who get to vote with every dollar we spend to tell business what we would like them to continue to produce and what we don't want them to continue to produce, and we tell them how much we're prepared to pay for it. That's free market liberalism. It works brilliantly. The only thing that's falling apart is the amount of centralized control that the global elites have. They're trying to get it back. But do carry on.
With everything falling apart, we can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before. Ways that better address so many of the challenges we face. And that's why so many are calling for a great reset.
They are? Who exactly? Who on the planet has called for Klaus Schwab and the global elite to lead us into any kind of reset? Nobody. Here's the likes and dislikes for this video alone, which has almost 1 million views. So we can pretty safely say that the studio audience has been polled, WEF, and they're giving your great reset a great reject. But do carry on.
A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination.
Yes, it does sound like a nefarious plan for world domination. Probably because it is a nefarious plan for world domination. And the more they try to tell us it isn't, the more convinced I become that it probably is.
Hands up, this kind of slogan hasn't gone down well. But all we really want to say is that we all have an opportunity to build a better world. And it's not surprising that people who've been disenfranchised by a broken system and pushed even further by the pandemic will suspect global leaders of conspiracy.
Yes, we will. This is just too good, isn't it? No, look, really, that thing where we get 3,000 of the world's biggest corporations and governments together to come up with a plan to reset the world on your behalf, as a pack of unelected, disconnected, elitist idiots, and that we call the Great Reset, that thing? Yeah, well, it's not really what we said it was. We're just some nice people who want to get together and impose upon you all what we think is best for you. Because, well, we had some luck in business and politics, and now we think we're fit to rule the world. It's no biggie. Don't stress.
Every one of us has differing priorities, values, and ideas. That's part of why solutions are so hard to come by, and why we all need to be involved in the decision-making. Because whether it's politicians, CEOs, academics, activists, or you, we're all about getting people together, even those you may not like, to sit down at the table and develop solutions that work for all of us.
Enough. Honestly, the lack of self-awareness of these people is beyond astounding. They've taken the most tone-deaf initiative that nobody wants and turned it into an even bigger tone-deaf initiative that nobody wants. Thank God that the people have the good sense to smell a rat, and everyone on the left and on the right has rejected the thing unanimously. Now we just need Klaus and the WEF to fade off into the sunset and leave us all alone. You see, guys, we already have a forum to help us move toward a better world. It's called free market capitalism and free market liberalism. It won. It's the ideology that works and makes everybody richer and better off and freer. And big government ideology is the one that makes people poorer and less free, unless, of course, it murders them first. The 20th century was the test run for that. The game is over. Free market liberalism and capitalism won, and socialism and communism lost. We don't need to replay the test. Tens of millions of dead people will tell you who won and who lost. But you see, these elites, they hate freedom and they hate liberalism because they can't control everything. See, here's how liberalism works. You don't have little committees of elite globalists or bureaucrats or technocrats sitting around deciding what's best for everyone else. You have the humility to know that no small group of people probably knows what's best. That maybe, just maybe, the forces of the combined efforts of millions of people in their own knowledge and their own experience and their own businesses might be better. Operating freely, making mistakes, learning from them, starting again. Millions of tiny, slow, incremental changes and adjustments to organizations and businesses and policies and laws to move us slowly all towards a better world. Not big government telling everyone what to do and making big sweeping changes that, if they prove to be wrong or get into the wrong hands, will simply destroy everything. Nope, just billions of people making up their own mind and voting every day with their own cash for what they want to see more of and what they want less of. Now, for that liberal system to work, we have to have private ownership. It can't be, you will own nothing and rent everything and be happy. Private property and the role of government needs to be to protect our private property and make sure that the marketplace remains free and dynamic and fair by preventing monopolization by just a handful of huge corporations. Government also has a role to step in when the market fails and set up rules and regulations that are minimal but effective where necessary, and to police those rules and regulations under a democratic system for the benefit of all. That's really all government needs to do, as well as defense and the police. Now, we already know that this system works. Every country where it's happening, it's working well. Freedom and liberty. Free people operating in free markets with as small regulation and government as is absolutely necessary. The 20th century proved it, and it also proved the horror of the opposite. The horror of what happens when a few elite get their hands on too much power. You want to fix the world, WEF? You want a great reset? let me suggest this. How about you embrace liberalism, and that in every industry where less than 12 large companies dominate the world, you enforce a breakup of those firms. And where government seeks to oppress their people and their freedoms, you get onto your mates at the United Nations to actually do something useful for a change. Because poverty and war and misery come from government corrupt elites enforcing their will on their people. And more of that isn't going to reset us into a better world. It'll reset us into a dystopia. For an excellent backgrounder, I highly recommend the fantastic YouTube channel Economics Explained, where a nice man with an Australian accent, hooray, will take you through the whole thing. His video on this got 1.5 million views, which is about the level the other side will reach when the global temperature anomaly finally hits 1.5 degrees, I think. Here we go.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. Winston Churchill's famous words from the darkest days of World War II have taken on a more sinister meaning as the decades have passed. This quote was actually meant to be an inspirational message of hope to the British people, but these days, more cynical onlookers see that people with ill intent can use a crisis just as well as those who are virtuous. The Great Reset is a collective name given to a series of economic policies that are attempting to use the recovery from the coronavirus as a way to supposedly build a better, brighter, more sustainable future. This policy was first unveiled by the World Economic Forum and the United Kingdom's Prince Charles, and since its announcement, it has gathered support from a laundry list of economists, politicians, business people, and celebrities. But it has also gathered a fair bit of criticism. Just 72 hours after its announcement, a petition to stop it gained 80,000 signatures, which is kind of fair enough. The whole premise of this proposal does sound very ominous. Economic plans titled The Great Something have not exactly had the best track record. The fact that this plan is leveraging a disaster alongside the fact that it is pushing some pretty spicy policies means that major conspiracy theories have surfaced, ranging from this plan will make us all poorer, all the way up to this plan will make us all slaves to the lizard people.
Economics Explained concludes, however, that we shouldn't worry too much because the World Economic Forum's ultimate power and relevance is highly questionable anyway.
You have to realise how blatantly partisan it is. It also pushes globalist ideas and advocating for nations to openly share their intellectual property. Now, this in reality is what people are taking issue with. The World Economic Forum sounds like it should be, well, a forum, and one that positions itself above agendas like this one. But of course, it isn't. And understanding what the World Economic Forum actually is will teach us a lot about what this whole proposal is in reality, and why even the most staunch rivals to its policies shouldn't be overly afraid of it. The World Economic Forum is a non-government organisation, probably best known for their annual meetings held in Davos, Switzerland, where thousands of wealthy people descend on a small alpine village to talk about all things economics. It makes a majority of its money through membership fees, which are steep. They range anywhere from $67,000 a year to $700,000 per year, depending on the level of engagement with the organisation. So, who are these members? Well, obviously, very rich people, or influential public figures that get complimentary invites. So, by virtue of the fact that it attracts the type of people who can afford this membership, it is influential, but it's not like the United Nations or the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, as much as it would like you to believe that it is. It's, for lack of a better way of putting it, a book club for woke billionaires, where the only thing that they discuss are economics textbooks. The Great Reset may as well be the Great Gatsby. It's not really a genuine proposal, it's a hypothetical to stir up conversation and maybe a little bit of controversy. That's how they get attention, which is how they get membership, which is how they maintain influence and relevance.
That's Economics Explained's explainer there on the Great Reset. I highly recommend taking a look at that. It's excellent, and the link to it, the full thing, is in our program notes, as always. And that's it for another The Other Side. Don't forget that you can join us. Remember to click on the subscribe button on all the platforms. Don't forget there will be another episode in a couple of days. We're coming out a couple of times a week now. And if you follow us on YouTube, click that little bell so you'll get notified when we post our new content. Sign up for the Discernible crew at discernable.io, because you never know when big tech could, cut us off. And if you'd like to be added to our special VIP WhatsApp group for The Other Side, all you got to do is email your WhatsApp number to me at theothersideost@gmail.com. Theothersideost@gmail.com. whatsappgroup.com, and I will send you back a link for you to opt in to that WhatsApp group. Okay, and you can leave anytime you like. If you don't want to be on it, we don't spam, we don't send out anything other than the program links, which come a couple of times a week. Okay, and nobody can talk back. It's a one-way channel WhatsApp group. It's not a chat group. Okay, so please join us. We'll see you again soon for episode 46.